There is something in Egypt that does not die. Even after thousands of years, the pyramids remain there imposing, silent, defying time. When I stood before them for the first time, I felt that desert hid more than sand and stone. There was a code there, a secret that the pharaohs knew, and that the rest of the world forgot. People often look at Egypt and see only tombs, mummies, and gold, but I saw something else. I saw a civilization that understood wealth in a way that we, with all our technology, still do not. They didn't chase gold, they attracted him. They did not accumulate power, they became his very symbol. And that's what fascinates me. How men and women who lived 5,000 years ago managed to build empires that endure to this day, while we live surrounded by invisible ruins, debts, anxiety, haste. What did the pharaohs know about wealth? Why did they believe that gold was sacred, and not just a shiny metal? And most importantly, why do most of us still not understand the truth they tried to set in stone? In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 10 pharaonic secrets about wealth. These are not ready-made formulas, they are silent laws, buried under layers of symbols, temples, and stories. Laws that explain why some people hoard assets, and others hoard meaning. And as you listen to each one, you may realize that the wealth you seek was never out there, but dormant inside you, waiting to be awakened. Egypt was not only the cradle of civilization. It was the birthplace of abundance consciousness. And if you pay attention, you will notice the pyramids were not built to store bodies, were erected to guard ideas. Ideas so powerful they have spanned millennia. And now, they are about to be revealed again. When I began studying ancient Egyptian texts, a phrase was repeated in different temples, in different inscriptions. Nothing is prosperous in the outer world if there is misery in the inner temple. At that moment, I understood. The pharaohs never separated spiritual wealth from material wealth because, to them, they were the same thing. Prosperity, in ancient Egypt, began within the mind. It was a state of balance between the visible and the invisible. The gold that shone in the temples was not only a symbol of power, but a mirror of the pharaoh's soul. If the spirit was in disorder, the gold would lose its shine. If the mind were pure, even the sand of the desert could be transformed into treasure. The priest said that the human body was a sacred temple, and that every thought was an offering. When someone thought with fear, scarcity, or envy, they were offering dust to the gods. But when he acted with purpose, faith, and gratitude, he offered spiritual gold. And, according to them, the universe responded in exactly the same way. It's curious to realize that today, thousands of years later, we continue to make the same mistake. We try to change reality without changing the inner vibration. We work ourselves to exhaustion, we chase numbers and possessions, but we forget something the pharaohs knew: gold is a consequence, not a cause. They believed that true power came from the harmony between the Ka and the Ba, the life energy and the soul. When these two aspects were in balance, the pharaoh became a channel of divine abundance itself. Nothing was lacking, because nothing was desired in excess. This is the first lesson Egypt taught me: wealth is a frequency. And as long as you vibrate in scarcity, no external action will be enough. But when you align body, mind, and purpose, the universe will respond like the Nile after flooding, fertilizing everything it touches. The pharaohs did not have wealth, they were wealth. And perhaps that is why, to this day, Egypt's shine has never dimmed. In Egypt, everything was built to last beyond life. The pharaohs knew that time would erase empires, but it would not erase names engraved in stone. Therefore, every decision, every monument, every symbol was thought of with a single question in mind: will this survive me? When I began to understand this mindset, I realized the chasm that exists between the way they viewed wealth and the way we treat it today. We live obsessed with the now, with quick profit, with instant fame, with immediate conquest. But the pharaohs knew that true power is quiet, patient, and calculated. They did not seek wealth to show off, they sought eternity mean. Egypt believed that the soul underwent judgment after death, and that only those who lived with purpose would live on in the do-it, the afterlife. Prosperity, therefore, was not a race, it was a spiritual construction. And every righteous act, every lasting work, was a brick in the temple of his name. There is something fascinating about this vision. The pharaohs did not save time, they multiplied it. By creating monuments that defied logic, they were sending a message to the future, a message to me, to you, to all who would still hear their stories thousands of years later. They knew that gold ages, but the meaning no, and perhaps that is why Ramses, Tutankhamun, and Cleopatra still resonate in our imagination. They understood that the greatest wealth is to live in such a way that the world cannot forget you. It's not about fame, it's about energy, legacy, as something that continues to generate value even after you're gone. As I studied their tombs, I noticed something symbolic. None of them were turned towards the past. They all pointed to the sunrise, as if to say, even in death, I still seek the dawn. This is the second law of Pharaonic wealth. True fortune is that which continues to grow even after you are gone. Everything you build with purpose, ideas, love, values becomes eternal. The rest, time consumes. I never forgot the silence inside the Temple of Karnak. Those gigantic columns, erected more than 3,000 years ago, still stand firm, imposing, defying everything we know about time. In that moment, I understood something that the pharaohs knew, and we have forgotten. True wealth is not made to last a lifetime, but to last centuries. The pharaohs lived under a different logic, what I call economy of eternity. They didn't measure results in days or years, but in generations. Every stone laid, every temple erected, every scripture carved was a seed planted in the soil of the future. They invested in works that would survive their own deaths because they believed that eternity also has a return. While the modern world seeks the now, Egypt sought the always. And it is this difference that separates the common from the immortal. Pharaoh did not ask, how much will this bring me tomorrow? But rather, how much of this will the world remember 1,000 years from now? There is a quiet wisdom in this way of thinking. They understood that haste is the enemy of power, and that the true empire is built with calm, purpose, and vision. Egypt was not made in a generation. It was the result of centuries of continuity, a succession of minds that understood that wealth is a heritage of consciousness, not just gold. Today, we live in a time where everything is fast, ephemeral, disposable. We work for immediate results and forget to leave something that really lasts. But as long as we are running after the now, we will remain poor in eternity. And the pharaohs, with their silent temples, continue to laugh at our haste. They knew that what is born with purpose does not die, it only changes form. A monument is just stone until it is touched by meaning. An idea is just a thought until it is moved by purpose. And that is what transforms the ephemeral into the eternal. This is the third law of Pharaonic wealth. Don't just invest in what enriches your life, but in what enriches your existence. Because an empire may crumble, but the value of what you built for the world, that time cannot steal. In Egypt, silence was a language. The pharaohs did not speak more than necessary because they believed that words spend their power prematurely. What is said in excess loses strength. What is kept in silence ripens like gold under the sun. I learned this by looking at the walls of temples. There was no rush, no excess. Every symbol, every hieroglyph, every stroke. Everything had intention. There, nothing was noise. Egypt was a civilization built by hands that knew that mystery attracts more than explanation. The pharaohs cultivated the art of enigma. They didn't reveal their plans, they just executed them. Did you know that power loses its luster when it is displayed? And that true mastery comes from what you control, not what you show. Today, we live the opposite. We tell our dreams before we make them come true. We disclose plans that are still fragile, and we are surprised when they do not come true. But in Egypt, they understood that word is magic. And all magic needs to be protected until the right time to be revealed. The priest said, whoever speaks of what is still being created, steals from himself the power of creation. Therefore, the pharaohs spoke little and observed a lot. They let the silence work for them. Mystery was his invisible crown. With every decision, they consulted not only advisors, but time itself. They waited for the exact moment when silence became action. There is something deeply spiritual about this. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is presence of consciousness. It is here that ideas mature, strategies are aligned, and destiny is shaped. Pharaoh did not need to shout his greatness. It was enough to exist, and the world felt it. This is the fourth law of Pharaonic wealth. talk less, build more. Let your work scream what your words don't need to say. Mystery is the shield of the wise, and silence is the temple where power is forged. The pharaohs did not see gold only as wealth. For them, gold wastes skin of the gods. A metal that does not rust, does not fade, does not die, just like the energy of the sun itself that gives life to everything. As I walked through the corridors of Luxor, I noticed something curious. Gold was everywhere, but never in excess. He appeared as a symbol, as a connection, as an offering. It was a reminder that true abundance does not come from possession, but of thick communion with the divine. The Egyptians believed that everything that exists vibrates: stones, bodies, thoughts, intentions. And that gold vibrated at a frequency closest to sunlight. Therefore, whoever connected to this energy with respect attracted natural prosperity without having to chase it. The pharaoh understood that gold should only circulate among hands purified by the right intention. It wasn't about greed, it was about purpose. Spending without conscience was a way of profaning the sacred. To use wisely was to participate in the flow of life. The priests taught that money, like gold, is a living energy. It needs to flow, be honorable, have direction. When used with fear, it runs away. When used with gratitude, it multiplies. And that's when I realized something that changed my view on wealth. Scarcity is not a lack of resources, it is energy disconnection. When you align yourself with the divine, with creation, with beauty, with truth, abundance begins to move towards you, silently, like the Nile after the rains. This is the fifth law of Pharaonic wealth: treat money as sacred energy. He is not the end, but the means by which creation continues. And the more purpose there is in using it, the more the universe trusts in sending it to you. Pharaohs did not need to display wealth, they are men of wealth. Because they understood something that few people realize: gold does not shine on the outside, it shines from the inside out. As I studied the temples and hieroglyphics, I noticed a curious pattern. Not everyone had access to the knowledge that created true wealth in ancient Egypt. The pharaohs and their priests kept secrets not out of vanity, but because power without preparation is destructive. There was a concept called initiation. It was a process that transformed not just the body or the mind, but the very perception of reality. Only those who passed through it could understand the laws that govern prosperity, time, and eternity. It was knowledge that could not be passed on to just anyone. It required discipline, focus, and vision. As I reflected on this, I realized that this idea still exists today, albeit in a more subtle form. Few understand the true game of money, power, and creation. Most people chase immediate results without understanding the invisible mechanism that the pharaohs dominated: the alignment between intention, action, and time. In Egypt, the circle of initiates taught that wealth is not just about accumulating gold or land. It is develop awareness, courage, and discipline as you watch the world move in cycles you haven't yet mastered. The pharaoh guided, but also protected this knowledge because he knew that revealing secrets without preparation was like releasing a river without a dam: chaos and waste. And I realized there's something deeply human about that. It's not about elitism, it's about responsibility. True knowledge about prosperity is not just about formulas or shortcuts, it is an internal transformation. You need to be ready to receive it, and totally ethically and intelligently. This is the sixth law of Pharaonic wealth. Not all knowledge is for everyone, and this is necessary. To achieve lasting wealth, you need to go through the initiation process itself. Observe, learn, prepare, and act when ready. Understanding this, I understood that the pharaohs did not build empires with gold and power alone. They built empires with selective wisdom, transmitted only to those who could maintain the harmony of the system. And that is why, even today, some secrets of prosperity still seem invisible to most. Gold in ancient Egypt was never just material wealth. He wastes skin of the gods, a reflection of the sun, a bridge between the human and divine world. When I stood before the golden masks, the statues, and the temples, I felt that the glow was not physical. It was symbolic, loaded with meaning that spanned millennia. For the pharaohs, gold had three main functions: first, protect vital energy; second, reflect the divinity within; and third, multiply positive intentions. It wasn't empty luxury. Every piece, every ornament, every bar of gold in the temples had a profound purpose. They believed that gold could channel the energy of the universe. It was not about accumulating wealth for ego, but about channel the flow of abundance. When used wisely, gold helped maintain the harmony of the empire, the fertility of the land, the health of people, and the balance of cosmic cycles. As I observed the tombs and temples, I noticed something fascinating. Gold appeared in strategic places, never in an exaggerated way. He was a symbol of power, but also of wisdom. The pharaoh who abused it attracted imbalance. The one who honored it multiplied prosperity. This vision completely changes the way we understand wealth today. In the modern world, gold is an investment, status, material. But the pharaohs remind us that wealth is energy, and energy needs intention. What you own only has value if it is aligned with purpose, awareness, and respect. And there is something even deeper. Gold was also a memory and legacy code. Each item held messages, stories, and teachings destined to pass through generations. It was a silent language, understood only by those who had eyes to see beyond the physical. This is the seventh law of Pharaonic wealth. See wealth as a symbol and energy, not just as possession. When you internalize this, every resource that comes to you becomes a tool for creation, not on an anchor of anxiety or greed. Gold does not shine alone, it shines when you understand your purpose. And that is why the temples and tombs still resonate with power, not just for the metal, but for the meaning that accompanies it. While studying Egyptian calendars and pyramid alignments, I realized something that changed my thinking. The pharaohs did not live in the present in the same way as we do. They thought in decades, centuries, entire eras. Every decision, every construction, every strategy was planned with eternity in mind. I remembered looking at the pyramids of Giza for the first time. They weren't just tombs, they were monuments calculated with mathematical precision, aligned with stars and the cycles of the sun, creating a legacy that no one could erase. They understood that time is the true capital, more valuable than gold, more powerful than armies. Ancient Egypt teaches us that wealth without temporal vision is fleeting. Today, we seek immediate results, quick profits, instant fame. But the pharaohs knew that the impulse of now is the enemy of lasting prosperity. They acted patiently, studied patterns, assessed risks, and waited for the right moment to move their resources. This mindset completely changes our relationship with what we have. While the modern world chases after novelty, they cultivated consistency. A pyramid is not built in a year, and an empire is not consolidated in a decade. Time was the invisible ally, and every act of planning was an investment in eternity. And it's not just physical construction. This philosophy applies to the mind, family, business, and legacy. They knew that seeds planted today can flourish long after they are gone. Gold, temples, ideas, everything had value proportional to its ability to pass through generations. This is the eighth law of Pharaonic wealth. Think like someone who invests for centuries, not months. Patience is not passivity, it is concentrated power. Time favors those who understand its flow and act wisely, not those who run without direction. As I reflected on this, I realized that the real secret of the pharaohs was not gold or military power, it was the ability to master time. And perhaps that is the hardest lesson to learn these days. It's not about chasing wealth, but about learning to make time work in your favor. As I walked along the banks of the Nile, I felt something impressive. Egypt flourished in the midst of an immense desert, under a relentless sun, with limited resources. And yet, that civilization built empires, temples, and pyramids that have stood for millennia. That's when I understood. The pharaohs relayed the art of transforming scarcity into abundance. For them, scarcity was not a problem, it was a challenge, an opportunity for creativity and strategy. The Nile, with its predictable floods, taught valuable lessons. When a resource is limited, each drop must be directed intelligently. They created irrigation, storage, and redistribution systems that multiplied production, ensuring that each harvest yielded more than seemed possible. I realized that this mentality is much more than agricultural, she is philosophical. The pharaohs did not see the world as a place of lack, but as a field of possibilities. Limits were not barriers, but shortcuts to innovation. Gold, food, territory, everything could be expanded if you understood the logic of invisible abundance. As I studied their strategies, I noticed that there is something profoundly modern about this approach. In today's world, everyone complains about lack of time, money, or opportunity. But the Pharaohs showed that true wealth lies in the ability to see potential where others see limitation. The secret is to train your mind to turn obstacles into levers and scarcity in a drive to create more, better, and with purpose. This is the 9th law of Pharaonic wealth. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Turn what you have into abundance. Is gold finite? Use it wisely. Short on time. Prioritize what makes a lasting impact. Is the land barren? Learn to plant where no one dares. Egypt is not just a history lesson, is a quiet manual of resilience and strategic vision. As I walked among the pyramids, I felt that every stone, every temple, every harvest organized by the Nile carried a message. Limitations are just the starting point of true prosperity. And I know that if you apply this to your life, the same mindset can transform your present and open doors you never imagined existed. As I walked among the pyramids, I felt a truth that the pharaohs seemed to whisper through the desert wind. The gold, the temples, the statues, none of these were the essence of wealth. The real treasure was in what is not seen in ideas, in vision, in the influence that spans generations. Ancient Egypt teaches us that what we build with purpose, even if invisible to the eye, is more powerful than any medal or monument. A pharaoh could die, but his name, his strategies, his works planned with intention. All of this continued to shape lives, cultures, and history itself. The invisible legacy is the sum of conscious decisions. It's the impact you leave on people, on the community, on the world, even if no one realizes it at the time. While many seek visible wealth, money, luxury, status, the pharaohs invested in invisible eternity, wisdom, discipline, alignment, and purpose. I realize that this is the most difficult point for us to understand today. We live anxious for immediate results, for instant applause, for external validation. But the wealth that truly transforms does not depend on the eyes of others. It depends on consistency, vision, and cultivating what will serve of you. This is the 10th law of Pharaonic wealth. Build what cannot be destroyed by time. Your actions, your ideas, your energy when guided by purpose are eternal treasures. The gold may be stolen, the palace may crumble, but the invisible legacy remains. And that's when I understood, the true secret of the pharaohs is not in the pyramids or the jewels. It is in the awareness that real wealth is about master your own destiny, create impact, and consciously transform scarcity into abundance. As you apply these laws, you are silently building your personal empire, invisible, eternal, powerful. After exploring the 10 secrets of the pharaohs, one thing becomes clear. True wealth was never just gold or jewels. She is energy, vision, and legacy. It is the ability to transform scarcity into abundance, to think about the future with patience, to align body, mind, and purpose. The pharaohs taught us that true treasure lies within us, and that everything we build with intention has the power to last for generations. As I walked along the banks of the Nile, reflecting on all I had learned, I realized that these lessons are not just in the past. They carry a compass for modern life. Each of us can apply these principles. Think like someone who leaves a legacy, act like someone who transforms limitation into opportunity, and see wealth as sacred energy that circulates when we use it wisely. And here is the final secret, which connects all the laws. It's not about accumulating gold or bonds, but about creating meaning, to master your own life and to build something that will last even when you are no longer here. This is what the pharaohs knew and the world has forgotten. If you felt the power of these discoveries, don't let them go to waste. Start applying these laws to your life today. Reflect on your legacy, on how you use your time, your resources, and your energy. Because every conscious action brings you closer to what is truly eternal. If this video inspired you, and you want to continue exploring ancient secrets that can transform your modern life, click like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any powerful content. Share in the comments which of these laws you'll apply first. I want to know how you'll transform your life. Remember, pharaohs didn't need to shout about their greatness. They built quietly, with purpose, and let their legacy speak for them. Now, the question is, Are you ready to build your invisible legacy?